Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, welcome back to Out Here. We're just killing a little time today. It's Monday, it's our usual content day. And, well, I received some requests from one of my subscribers. Now, it was a couple of days ago. I had hoped to make some content yesterday, but I got busy and I was also really tired from, well, the activity of yesterday. We went to an estate sale and it got really, really hot, really, really fast. We got out the door about 10:30ish, and we hit up this estate sale nearby, and we found a few little things, but nothing really humongous. Got some kitchenware from the 30s and 40s, and some other little odds and ends, which was really nice. So it was, I guess it was worth it. But then we had breakfast, and then by the time we got home, it was after 12. And it was like already almost 100 degrees. Yeah, it was almost 100 degrees. So we turned on the AC and just sheltered in place and tried to escape all the heat. That was bad. Anyways, speaking of that subscriber who I would like to address, let me look him up. Let's see here. Give me a second. I'm going to go to my channel and look up my recent comments. We'll do a proper shout out here. Now, subscriber Tatachi, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, forgive me if I'm wrong, he writes, "Hi Rob, amazing job you did. Came out really beautiful. Thanks for sharing. I have a couple of pretty rusted lanterns that I would like to restore to make them look like yours, keeping the age tone but looking clean and solid. Could you make a video on the steps you go through to get this results? Many thanks and all the best from Switzerland." Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words, and I'm glad that you appreciate my aesthetic. I do like preserving history with these things because I'm a big time history buff. If you haven't noticed, I have a lot of, well, today, I mean, I'm pretty common looking today, but yes, the time cave, everything therein is all very 1920s through 1950s. Yeah, we collect a lot of stuff. But anyways, lanterns, of course, is the main topic here on this channel, and so I keep it along those lines. However, greetings from California to Switzerland. Appreciate your subscriptions, and I'm glad that you enjoy the channel. So let's get into that. Let's address your concerns and your desire to know how I acquire the look of a lantern that I have. Now, as of late, I will admit that most of my lanterns I have not really touched much. I'll get them and they'll have a good patina, and I'll wipe them down with a little WD-40 to clean them off, if anything else. That's it. My side lift that I fixed, got the missing cap on the center draft tube, I haven't done anything to it. I just added oil and a new wick, and that's practically all I did, and it looks really cool just the way it is. Now, I will give an example here. I'll start off, I'm not going to do anything right in front of the camera, but I will give you a case in point type of example. So for starters, we start off with a rusty lantern that I'm not going to restore, but just to I'll tell you more about this in a minute. But this is an old Embry number 240, dates to the 30s probably. I got it for parts off of eBay, and I only got a few parts off it that I really needed. But anyways, it's roached out in the air tube. That's why I felt it was a good candidate for cannibalization, because this air tube it's compensated. It's roached. It's done. This lantern has very little chance of burning ever again. However, the texture and the amount of surface rust that it has, I'm going to use as an example, because I've had other lanterns that were similar to this that came out actually pretty decent. So never let the surface rust fool you. It's hard to tell what's under it, because, well, it could just be just that, surface rust. It could be corrosion of a finish or something, and underneath is decent metal still. Or it could be cancerous and on borrowed time. You never can really tell. So it's kind of a crapshoot once in a while. However, this is what I do. This is how I start things off. Always get yourself a good can of WD-40. I go over the entire lantern frame with WD-40. So I remove the globe, the burner cone, and the fuel cap, and the other parts that are not necessarily part of the whole cleaning and de-rusting process, because I do those parts on separately. So I'll just go over the entire thing with WD-40. Then I get out one of my Scotch pads. You can get a stack of these, and they come in bigger squares. I just cut them in quarters. But at most home improvement stores or grocery stores or whatever, and they're not too expensive. So cut them up, and so they're easier to manage. Use them as you need. So start scrubbing all over your lantern with this, or even a fine steel wool. A lot of guys use steel wool as well. It has about the same result. I like these because they're not that abrasive, so they won't scratch your metal, but a fine steel wool will also preserve your metal finish. Anyways, get out of here. Stupid fly. So you do that. All right, so go over the entire lantern, good old elbow grease and WD-40. And if you're wondering what is emerging underneath there, because you're going to just see a lot of smeary, brown, dirty WD-40, and it's always good to have a pair of gloves when you're doing this work. So rinse it off. Well, take one of these blue shop towels. You can get these at most auto parts stores or even Walmart. They're blue. They're made by Scott. They're very durable and they're very absorbent. They're like cloth almost, and they're worth it. I like these. I use them plenty out here. So start wiping down an area and see what is emerging from underneath the surface rust. And if you see a really cool pattern with some patina, then you know that's where you want to stop. If not, if you still see more rust, then you can go a little further. Chances are, if it's got a surface rust like this, there won't be too much metal to be saved, but it will be more or less addressing the surface rust and holding it bay without getting worse. Case in point, this is one example that I finished back in 2019. It looked kind of like this. Of course, it was structurally sound. It had no holes in it, but the Dietz Wizard that I have, this is a number 2 Dietz Wizard, 1915 era. And this is how it came out. Okay, so this is how it looks. It looked a lot like this. So if you want to see what it looked like before, I did a video back in 2019 of the Dietz Wizard, and you'll see how it looked. It had a light bulb in it, and I had to de-electrify it. Luckily, it was a very simple process. There was no holes drilled in the fount. Lucky for that. But anyway, so I did the same thing. I soaked it all WD-40, attacked it with one of these, and it wasn't pitted. It came out very smooth and had this nice dark aged metal finish with some surface rust in it. But I rinsed it all off with WD-40, wiped it all down. It had this nice kind of satin aged surface rust type of finish, and I really liked it because it reminded me of finding some abandoned old car out in Death Valley, and it has this very smooth surface rust. Well, actually, I have an example of what I'm trying to drive at here. I bought this log cabin syrup tin at a thrift store, but on the other side you could see where it was in the sun for many years. See that? That's not touched. That's original rust, and it's very smooth. It's very smooth and it's not pitted. So that's kind of what I wanted to go for. And that's exactly what I got with this, because it had enough surface rust, but I got a lot of it off, and I hit it with more WD-40, rinsed it all off, wiped it down, and then I hit it up with some Mother's Polish to bring out a subtle shine. And you just work on it. You take some and you dip your towel, put your finger behind a corner like this, and then you just dip it in there and just start working on it. Find a spot that you want to start on and just work it, rub it. The more you rub it, the more it's going to work into the pores of the metal, into the surface, and then it's going to kind of take out the dirt, and then you start polishing it, and it's going to leave a subtle shine, especially on a finish like this. And people are like, "You're polishing rust? That's ludicrous. Who does that?" It's like, that's weird. Well, okay, it kind of sounds weird, but when you do that and you start buffing it out, you'll see this nice dark brown aged metal, and then with a subtle shine. So it'll give kind of that nice subtle kind of used look, kind of well worn but used, and I think it's a nice finish, and I think that's what you're after. So that's one way, and that's this thing came out really good. I like this thing a lot. I just love the way it came out. But then there's also those examples that are much lighter rust. They have a very subtle rusty finish, very light surface rust, and a lot of grime or dirt depending on where they were stored. So case in point, this Model 17 Rayo Hot Blast, 00 Hot Blast here. This little guy had some grime and dirt and subtle surface rust, and I did the same thing with this one with the WD-40 Scotch pad. And the more I went over it, the more I realized that there was actually really good metal and some surviving tin under there. You see the shine there? Yeah, there's some good metal under here. And so I was like, oh, I want to stop. I love that. I don't want to go too far because it will look uneven and it would look really kind of weird. But I saved a lot of the patina that way. And I've rinsed it all off with WD-40. So once you get to where you want, then spray it down with WD-40. Make sure it's in a pail or a pan. Spray it all down so it all runs off into that, right? And then take out your towels, wipe it all off, get as much of the WD-40 off as you can. Okay, don't spare any towels. Just keep on wiping it down, and then you'll see what you're dealing with underneath this first layer, surface rust, or the existing layer. And you'll say, oh, that's neat. Oh, that's perfect. That's where I want it. That's great. So continue to wipe off all the WD-40, all the solvent, and then mothers again. Dip your rag in and start going over it and working in certain areas, and one area at a time. And then buff it all out with a fresh towel. And then you should have something like this, which is what a lot of people appreciate. A lot of people like this one because it has a very honest look. It still looks antique, it's solid, and it looks clean. And it doesn't look like that. So, so that's one way of doing it. And I really hope that helps out. I hope that answers your questions and how to get the desired patina that you would like with the rusty lantern. Now, of course, remember, if it's really rusty, you're gonna have pits. There's a chance that you will have pitted metal, so you don't want to go down too far because then it will reveal more pits. Now, case in point, I did the same trick with my crystal, but it had a lot of pits. See how the metal is really pitted? So I didn't go too crazy. So I didn't want to reveal more pits or soak this in evaporust and it would just look like, prepubescent teenager, all pot marks and it just, yeah. Anyways, so that's what happened with the crystal. But it still looks good and has a nice rugged age to it, and it looks awesome. So depending on how severe your surface rust is, go easy at first. You can always do more. It's not so easy to go back. You can't do less. So proceed with caution and prudence, and you should have a decent result. WD-40 and an abrasive pad, either be the Scotch pad or the steel wool, fine steel wool, medium is fine, and just elbow grease. And just keep an eye on what progress you're doing, and just keep going until you achieve more or less the aesthetic that you desire. I will say this guy, I have no use for this, and I don't want to throw it away. I do want to offer it to anyone who could probably use more parts, or maybe try to save it. If anybody wants to try and patch this air tube, or even if they have another lantern that has a bad fount or whatever, but good air tubes, this might be a candidate for you. So I'm offering this to my subscribers within the lower 48 states. I'm sorry, I don't do international shipping. It's a problem for you, and it's a problem for me. It's expensive, and it wouldn't be worth it for this. It really wouldn't. If it was a nice lantern, maybe we'd work something out, but it's a project. And so this is offered to my subscribers in the lower 48 states. If you have the skill and maybe the parts that you want to revive this lantern and make it burn once again, I'm willing to send it to you at cost. So all you have to do is cover the shipping costs, and that's it. So this would be a good candidate for someone who is capable, or even someone who is not and is wanting to get their feet wet and salvaging something that is potentially trash. So I just leave it out there. If you're on the old Facebook Tubular Lantern group, hit me up, send me a DM, and say, hey, I want that lantern, I want to fix it and restore it and blah blah blah. I was like, okay, give me your address and we'll figure out how to cover the shipping costs, and then you'll get the lantern. All right, so that's enough about that. Everything else has been okay. Had a nice weekend. No big exciting things have happened, or good or bad. But yeah, I'll just say I'm getting good at grilling. I've been using a lot of wood in our little barbecue that we have, and I'll tell you, cooking over wood, nice steaks, not a bad thing. Really good. Getting kind of good at it. So I've been channeling my old Kent Rollins tips and pointers. I'm a big fan of his. But anyways, I like cowboy cooking, and I don't really have the means to do a whole lot of it, but with our little grill, I'm doing my best. So whatever you guys do this week, do it well, enjoy yourself, and I guess restore a lantern. Why not, right? Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you guys again very soon. All right, bye-bye now.